Haben, thank you so much for joining us virtually today to speak with us. I know your busy schedule does not allow you to join us in Scottsdale for our convention, but we're very grateful for the technology that allows us to chat with you today and present your award. This is a great honor for us to speak with you today and present this award, and we're very excited to hear more about your work. I was hoping we could start by sharing, perhaps you could share a little more about what made you decide to attend law school and what law school was like for you.
Excellent question. I want to start with communication. I'm deafblind. I'm not seeing or hearing what's happening on the screen, but I'm getting access in an alternative way. I'm using Braille. So let me hold up my Braille device. So I have a Braille computer with Braille along the bottom, and I am holding it on my lap. And as you speak, I have a typist typing what you're saying. I'm reading it in Braille and then responding by voice. You might notice there's a delay between when you speak and when I respond, and that's because the communication is coming through. I did use this system when I was in law school to get access to conversations, lectures, what was written on the board. The school provided my textbooks in Braille, exams were in Braille. When schools choose inclusion, they can benefit from the talents of disabled students. This is new. For a long time, many law schools discouraged disabled students or would not remove the barriers to allow disabled students to fully participate. But more and more schools are changing and removing those barriers so disabled students could grow, share their talents. And I really wanted to help remove the barriers, not just in law school, but throughout our country. There are so many barriers impacting disabled people. They don't need to be there. A lot of them are arbitrary. An umbrella term that captures many of these barriers is the word ableism, A-B-L-E-I-S-M. And it's the idea that one has to be fully able-bodied to have value or deserve dignity, which isn't right. But it comes up in healthcare, in schools, in workplaces. Ableism, employment discrimination, which attorneys with disabilities also experience, is part of ableism. So I wanted to help teach people to notice ableism and work to remove it. And that's why I chose to go to law school.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's really heartening to hear that a school like Harvard is willing to help students to overcome some of those maybe traditional challenges, to provide those textbooks to you in Braille, to provide the technology. Could you share with us a little more about your current advocacy work and your career working for disability justice?
Absolutely. So I work to increase opportunities for disabled students and disabled people outside of schools as well. My primary focus is tech. Tech has so much potential. It starts out as ones and zeros. And if companies choose inclusion, those ones and zeros can be engaging applications that everyone can use. They can be visual, they can be audio, they can connect to Braille computers and produce Braille. They can have haptics and communicate through tactile communication. There's a lot of potential to make accessible tech that makes our world better. And a lot of the designs currently being developed are not really thinking about disabled people. disabled engineers or disabled customers, and that needs to change. So that's one of my biggest interests, and that's what I work on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This video that we are recording today is being presented to law students, practicing attorneys, people in various stages of their career. But what advice would you offer to aspiring or current attorneys who want to make an impact on their communities in the same way that you are working?
I wrote a book, a memoir called Haben, the deaf-blind woman who conquered Harvard Law. And in that book, a very significant part is going through law school, going through Harvard as their first deaf-blind student. And one of the biggest struggles was the idea that there's really only one way to be an attorney. There are so many stereotypes and social pressures on how to be an attorney, how to dress, how to voice, what voices are valued and deserve respect in the field of law. And many of those stereotypes told me that my voice did not belong. And someone like me, a deaf-blind Black woman, a daughter of refugees, did not belong in the field of law. And I had to train myself to resist those stereotypes, resist those images, and instead define for myself, what does it mean to be an attorney? What does it mean to be a fierce advocate? Don't let society decide that for you. Choose for yourself. What does it mean for you to be an advocate? Make sure your voice is heard and belongs in the room.
Thank you so much. What advice would you have for our members or even our entire organization of Phi Alpha Delta on what steps we can take to improve accessibility and inclusion? What can we be doing both just on our own, but also as a group?
Accessibility, it's constantly changing. People's bodies change, tech solutions change, the environment is changing. So accessibility should be an ongoing conversation, and you should have plans in the organization to have regular conversations about accessibility. Make sure there are people in roles specifically focused on ensuring accessibility. That requires a lot of skill and expertise. So it's important to regularly devote time to that.
Great, that's wonderful advice, and something, as we're all gathered here at convention, something for us to definitely think about as we chart the course of our future. To ask next, in your experience, what about your story seems to make people most reflect on their views or challenge their assumptions? Has there been something in particular that stands out to you?
A lot of people still assume a deaf-blind person could not go to law school. And learning about my experiences, the strategies I developed, how I dealt with barriers, learning about those stories helps people find their own courage to find alternative techniques and strategies to get past the barriers that they may be encountering. So that's one way I found people who've read my book and heard about my story have been moved by my work. And if you feel inspired by this presentation, ask yourself, what are some barriers you might be facing in your community? Then find the courage to tackle those barriers so that you can help not just yourself, but future students who might encounter that barrier in the future?
So I know you don't have a lot of time to be able to chat with us today, and we're so grateful for the time that you did make for us today. So just one quick other question. What's coming up next for you? What big projects are you working on? Is there anything you'd like to leave us with before we move on to our award presentation?
Accessibility is constantly changing. The big issue right now is overlay vendors. So there are lots of organizations claiming to make websites instantly, quickly accessible. But in fact, those overlay services are causing a lot of problems for blind and disabled people trying to use websites and digital services. So that's the big project right now that we're addressing. Let's make websites and apps fully accessible so that blind people can register for vaccines, apply for jobs, study at law school. So much is online, so it's really, really important that the internet is also accessible.
Fantastic, thank you. Now I'm going to turn things over to Andrew Sagan, our Executive Director, for the presentation of the Tom C. Clark Award. Andrew?
Haben, on behalf of Phi Phi Delta Law Fraternity at International, we present you with the 2022 Tom C. Clark Equal Justice Under Law Award, one of the fraternity's greatest honors. This award is presented to an individual for their contributions to society in advocating, promoting, and exemplifying the principle of equal justice under law. Your work as a human rights lawyer advancing disability justice helps shape the way we can use innovation and strengthen inclusion efforts. Again, congratulations, Haben. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
It's an absolute honor to receive this award. Thank you for recognizing disability justice and my work to help make this world more accessible for people with disabilities.